Yo, what's up guys, d-cell here, and today I want to do a unit analysis on the new units in Counterside. So we're going to be talking about Awakened Yuna, Serapel, Harab, and Operator Sigma. And what I want to do is break down their skill kits, give my thoughts, opinions, and overall analysis for each of those units. Before I do that, I do want to apologize. I know my videos have been more and more infrequent and more sporadic as far as the scheduling goes. June and especially July and August can be very demanding. It's my busiest time of year, so I do apologize about that. I do have to focus on my real-time job so I can provide for my family. So I do apologize that content has to take a little bit of a backseat, but hopefully here shortly I'll be able to get back to churning out more content for you guys. However, you can always reach me on Discord. The description down below will have the link, and you can ask me any question concerning Final Gear, Counterside, anything that I play or cover. You can always ask me over there. And if live streaming is more your thing, I do live stream on every Monday and Thursday over at twitch.tv/d-cellgaming. And one last thing guys, if you enjoy this video and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future, and hit that like button, as both of those things are really helpful for me in the YouTube algorithm, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Alrighty, and let's just dive right into it and talk about Awakened Yuna first, get the beast out of the way. So Awakened Yuna is an interesting character, right? She is a striker who is an all-around attacker, which means she can hit air units. She also summons Raleigh, the Firebird, so she is 2 units for the price of 1. And Raleigh does count as a 2-cost unit. That'll be important later on in the video. And every 5th basic attack, Raleigh will shoot out a bolt that lowers the attack and attack speed of the furthest enemy away, which means she can help hit those sniper units and lower the damage they deal. So she's a very interesting unit, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So let's just dive into her skill kit and see what she's all about. So looking at her skill kit here, we can see valid hits R2, inflicts AoE damage on enemies in the front. Every 5th basic attack, Raleigh delivers an AoE attack to the furthest target and decreases attack and attack speed by 30% for 5 seconds. And the level up effects, it just makes it do more damage. Moving on to her passive skill, summons Raleigh when deployed. Unit decreases HP by 2% every second for herself and surrounding enemies, bosses and ships excluded, and recovers 3% of HP every second if Raleigh is on the field. Raleigh resurrects in 5 seconds with full HP once per summon. So this right here is really huge. As long as Raleigh is on the battlefield, she's going to do basically like DOT damage that's HP percentage based, which is going to be huge for high-end PvE. However, that does mean if Raleigh dies, she's going to start sapping her own HP as well, which makes her a little bit squishy. Now the passives for this is going to increase her attack, which is really good because we want her to do more damage. And if Raleigh is dead, damage resistance plus 50%, and the special and ultimate skill will heal more HP when they're used. Then we have Solar Flame, which is her special skill, summons a massive column of fire, inflicts AoE damage on and around the target. Targets lose their buff effects and can't receive new buffs for 6 seconds. Yuna also recovers 10% of HP if Raleigh is on the field. So this right here is really good for PvP because it's a cleanser, right? So she's going to strip buffs and they're going to not be able to be buffed for 6 seconds. And on top of that, it will restore her HP. And the level up effects for Solar Flame is it's going to increase the damage by up to 25%, and then damage resistance plus 15% for 8 seconds when cast. And if the bird is dead, this effect doubles. Then we have Prominence, which is her ultimate skill, concentrates and discharges the power of the sun, inflicting AoE damage on enemies in the front, and then recovers 20% of HP if Raleigh is on the field. The level up effects, again, it's going to increase this damage by up to 25%, and then give her attack plus 15% for 12 seconds after the skill. This effect is also doubled if the Firebird is dead. So right away, we can see that Awakened Yuna is going to be a damage threat. But how big of a threat will she be in PvP? In all honesty, I don't think she's going to make as big of a splash or an impact in PvP as people might think, especially when compared to the splash that Awakened Yumina made. Now hear me out here. I think she's going to be a pretty big threat, especially for the first 2 weeks that she's out. But here are some things to consider. Number 1, the way that Awakened Mina and Awakened Yuna are deployed and used, they work completely differently. Yuna comes out, she's going to charge forward, she's going to attack the backline, and she's going to deal out a massive amount of damage all at once really quickly, which makes her a threat that's very hard to counter. On top of that, Awakened Yuna has good stats and she's decently tanky, so even after her initial burst, she's still going to be dealing out and dishing out high amounts of damage to the enemy team. This makes her an incredibly hard threat to deal with when she's summoned. Basically, when Awakened Yuna drops, like your heart sinks like right down into your stomach and you're just cursing your luck for having to deal with this threat, especially in the current state of global. Now, while Awakened Yuna, on the other hand, she really kind of needs to be put behind a decent defender to really maximize her threat potential. And the second thing to keep in mind here is when Awakened Yuna dropped, global was very young. So the rosters of most players were very small. On top of not having very many good counters, if they did have somebody, they likely didn't have them built at the time. So players weren't left with a whole lot of options to really counter Awakened Yuna when she dropped. But that's not the case with Awakened Yuna. Awakened Yuna's banner actually comes with a unit that helps to directly counter her, and that's Harab, which again, we'll get to that a little bit further in the video, but her banner literally comes with somebody that helps counter her. So I don't think she's going to make as big of a splash as Awakened Yuna did in PvP. Don't get me wrong, she's still going to be a massive threat because she's an Awakened unit. She deals a lot of damage, and she's going to be hard to deal with. I just don't think it's going to be as impactful and as crazy as Awakened Yuna's drop was. Overall, I think Operator Sigma is going to be the bigger impact on the PvP scene, but I'll talk more about that later on as well. Where Awakened Yuna is going to shine the most is PvE, because she does HP based damage. So that's going to be incredibly useful for high-end, high-level PvE modes and stages. Basically, put her on a decent cooldown set, watch her go to town, and she's going to do wonders for your PvE team in that high-end gameplay. So what's my final verdict for Awakened Yuna? And I say she is a safe summon for everyone. In my opinion, there is little to no reason not to at least to try and summon for her. If you don't get her, at least you can save your pity and it'll roll over to the next Awakened unit. But she is better in PvP than Awakened Yuna was in PvE, which makes her an overall very good all-around unit in my opinion. So to put that in perspective a little bit, let's say that Awakened Yuna is an S tier in PvP. She's probably like B tier in PvE, and the only reason she's B tier and that high is her skill kit doesn't really bring much to the table. She's just an Awakened unit and has really high attack and really high stats. So she's gonna deal like a good amount of damage, so she'll be decently good in PvE, but she's not bringing much to the table. Where Awakened Yuna, on the other hand, is more like an A tier in PvP and an S tier in PvE. So overall, she's just a really good unit to have in my opinion, and that makes her somebody that you likely don't want to pass up. And that's going to move us on into Serapel. So let's go ahead and look at this defender, because I think this lady is awesome. She has one of the best skins in the game in my opinion. But let's look at her skill kit and see if she's actually useful. So her basic attack is gonna just deal damage, inflict AoE, and it does the passive effects give more damage to the attack. All right, it's very standard basic attack. Her passive skill is where things get interesting. Permanently increases her attack by 1% in response to incoming damage up to 99%. In Gauntlet, incoming damage decreases all enemies' HP by 4.5 seconds over 3 seconds. So basically hitting her will cause a dot to happen on that character and they will begin to lose health. The level up effect for this skill is going to give her 25% more HP, which is really good since she's a defender. After every 4th basic attack, she delivers an enhanced AoE attack to the front area, special skill stun, immunity, and damage resistance plus 50% for 5 seconds. So this is going to increase her survivability. Then we move on to her special skill, Painful Monopoly. Unleashes her power, inflicting AoE damage on surrounding enemies and forcing them to attack her for 8 seconds. Takes 50% of damage for surrounding allies and achieves 100% defense for 8 seconds. This skill right here makes her insane in pretty much all game modes. So she has a taunt, right? That she's going to taunt enemies to her. On top of that taunt, she has HP share with the surrounding allies. So even if her surrounding allies do get hit, she's going to mitigate that damage and bring it to herself. On top of that, she's then going to double her defense, which is going to make her incredibly tanky. But it gets crazier than that. The level up effects for this will bring the total cooldown down to 20 seconds from 24 seconds, and then recovers 30% of max HP after the skill is used. So not only does she taunt, not only can she HP share, increase her defense, then she's gonna heal herself, a massive heal on top of that. So that's really crazy. Then her ultimate skill, Lacrimosa, partly reveals her true form, inflicting AoE damage on surrounding enemies. This skill immediately cancels all debuffs on her and makes her invincible for its duration. The level up effects will increase the damage by 25%, and then it will stun all enemies for 2 seconds. So this is a really useful skill in PvP and has some niche circumstances that it can be used in PvE, because it has that like iframe dodge, iframe invincibility basically, because while the skill is being used, she can't die. But she can stun people, and more importantly in PvP, she can cleanse her debuffs, which is crazy. So not only can she heal herself, she can cleanse debuffs. So what are my overall thoughts on Serapel? I think she's a very strong defender that will likely be able to tank for days. Okay, overall, I think in the current state of global, she's going to, and beyond, she's going to be very good in PvP and PvE, because she does it all, and she's incredibly tanky. She can taunt, HP share, she can heal herself, she can cleanse herself, she can increase her defense, she can increase her attack, she can even stun enemies. So she is incredibly useful to have. And if you don't have somebody like Lee Yumi, like a lower cost defender, she is a 4 cost, so she is a little bit more expensive. However, she doesn't cost as much as Awakened Hilda, so it makes her a really good option to use in a lot of circumstances. But what's my final verdict on Serapel? My final verdict for her is she is another safe unit for anyone to pull. With her large HP pool and excellent skill kit, she will fit into just about any team that you can build. She will be useful in both PvP and PvE, and I think as time goes by, you're gonna start seeing Serapel used more and more. Just put a HP set on her and just watch her sit there and never die, basically. That's gonna move us on to Harab. Now, Harab is an excellent waifu material in my opinion, but is her skill kit good? So Harab is a supporter with an all-around attack, so she can attack air and ground units as well. Unfortunately, Harab doesn't have any skins to go over, but she doesn't need that, as there are things about her that are great. So let's look at her skill kit. Her basic skill has 2 valid hits, whips at the front area, inflicting AoE damage. Is pretty much a basic, attack. Nothing crazy here, and the level up effects is just going to increase the damage that it does. Her passive skill, valid hits 3, increases her attack by 1% per basic attack targets up to 99%. So kind of the opposite of what Serapel does, right? So every time she attacks somebody, she's going to increase her own damage. Harab's basic attacks also damages allies, okay, at 1% of attack, and increases their damage resistance by 5% every time, up to 30%. So this is an interesting passive here, right? Because she's definitely pushing that dominatrix theme to the max here, as she's going to be damaging your own allies, but she will increase their damage resistance and her own attack. Now, the level up effect here is 20% more HP, which is really good. And then every 4th basic attack, she delivers an enhanced attack that will deal true damage by 33% of HP on affected targets or summonlings. So having a bit of true damage here is interesting. Although I would have liked to see something a little different here, maybe to augment her skill kit a little bit, but I'll talk about that in just a second. So here's where the trade-off of dealing damage to your party members comes into play. Her special skill forcefully whips at the frontline area, inflicting AoE damage, confuses summon units, and increases their attack by 30% for 10 seconds. In Gauntlet, this effect is also applied to 2 cost or below units. The level up effects will increase this damage by 25%, and the cooldown will be removed by 0.5 seconds for every basic attack. So this synergizes her skill kit, right? So every basic attack she does, it'll allow her to do more special skills. And we want her to do special skills because she does that confusion, and confusion is kind of broken in PvP. If you haven't put it together yet, her ability to confuse 2-cost units and increase their damage. It's going to increase their attack by 30%, and they're going to turn around and start attacking their own teammates. That means she can steal units like Administration Rifleman, she can steal units like Rivet, and more importantly, she can steal Raleigh away from Yuna, and then Raleigh will turn around and start blasting, just absolute murking the enemy team. Then her ultimate skill, Painful Instinct, whips and generates a strong wind, inflicting AoE damage on enemies in the front, increases damage resistance by 20% for 12 seconds. And the level up effect for that is going to increase the damage by 25%, an additional special skill effect on affected targets, which means she's going to be applying more confusion. So where does this fit Harab in with things? And I think she's very clearly a PvP focused unit. Confusion is pretty busted and it's hilarious. Unfortunately, those focused on PvE, I don't really see much usefulness for this outside of PvP. I know it sounds good, it sounds crazy, but usually in PvE, you want more raw DPS output, and her attacking your own teammates and just the confusion is not going to be nearly as great as you think it will be in PvE modes. However, her skill kit does synergize very well with each other, and I think it accomplishes what it wants to accomplish. It's there to spread confusion, and that makes her an incredibly good PvP unit. So my final verdict for Harab is she's safe only for players who are PvP focused or for whales. So while I think her overall design is amazing and her skill kit synergizes very well, it ultimately synergizes in a way that's going to be optimized for PvP and let her crank out those confusions and get more craziness going on in PvP. She can very easily counter Awaken Yuna, however, so do keep that in mind. If you are a casual PvP player, you might want to try to pick her up, even if you're just doing it casually, because she can help you if you weren't able to pick up Awaken Yuna. So there's always that aspect of it as well. But overall, I think only players who are spending good amounts of money in the game or are primarily focused on PvP should get Harab. All right, and that's gonna bring us to Operator Sigma as the last new unit to look and analyze at. And honestly, I think overall Operator Sigma is going to be the biggest impact that we're gonna ever see in PvP. And the reason for that is the overclock matrix. Okay, so it casts a non-cancelable barrier of 20% of max HP around all allies and adds a roll advantage damage for 10 seconds. Now that is at level 8, right? So not everybody's gonna have a level 8 Sigma. However, if you look at her level 1, it's still very good, right? Because it's gonna be 6% of max HP around all allies for that non-cancelable barrier, and adds roll advantage damage of 15% for 10 seconds. So even at level 1, this is very useful for PvP. This could literally turn the tide of a PvP battle by itself. I find more wins by using Operator Sigma and getting that skill trigger than using my Awaken unit, if I'm being honest, because Awaken Sigma is that good in PvP. On top of that, it's super easy to skill trigger this overclock matrix, because all you need to do is deploy a defender, a striker, and then a ranger, which you're pretty much going to do in PvP anyway. So this is incredibly easy to just skill trigger in PvP. I don't know what else to say about it. And another interesting thing about the overclock matrix is it is a non-cancelable barrier. So with the threat of Na Yu Bin maybe in the next month or two, this is going to be really good, right, against him. So because Na Yu Bin is going to basically destroy barriers and do damage based on that and stuff like that. So he's going to be a much bigger splash in PvP than I think either Awaken Yumina and Awaken Yuna, but I'm not 100% sure if he's coming out yet. We'll just have to see. But yeah, I think he's going to be the biggest impact in PvP if he does come out within the next month or so. He's going to be just absolutely nuts in PvP. So if you're focused on PvP, while I still don't suggest you summon for her unless you're just like Omega Whale, you should go into the planet malls and buy her that way, because it just maximizes your blue ticket usage so you can get a bigger roster. So that's my opinion. That's always going to be my opinion for operators. Buy them through planet malls. But what is my suggestion for PvE focused players? Well, I think honestly you should probably still focus more attention on Kim Hana. I think overall that's going to be better for your account, and you might even want to start looking at Chloe Starseeker after Kim Hana for the future inhibitor raids. That's going to be further on down the line, but that's probably the path that you're going to want to take if you're primarily focused on PvE. You probably want to get Kim Hana and probably get Chloe Starseeker for those future inhibitor raids just to make them easier to go through. But even after that, I still think Sigma is overall a good pickup for just about anyone. Even if you're just casually playing PvP, he's eventually going to be good to have on your side. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below which of these 4 units are your favorite, and did you summon for them? If so, let me know how that went down in the comments. Overall, I think all 4 of these units were a very, very good addition. This was an excellent patch for us in global. Harab is an amazing PvP unit. Serapel is crazy overall, especially if you missed Awakened Hilda and you're a new player and you don't have any other defenders. She is such an extremely good pickup. Awakened Yuna obviously is crazy. So yeah, I think overall, any one of these units that you pick up can be useful in some kind of way. But hey guys, with that, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.